one of these idiots that attacked Ralph Nader for running an independent
You
presidential
did?
campaign. Yeah, I've
Oh,
done a lot of stupid things, and that was pretty high up there. And I also debated Nader on a nation cruise. I think one we went up to Alaska, stupidly. And I challenged him, oh, you defeated Al Gore, blah, 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 blah. That's all garbage. And I realized, I voted for the lesser evil my whole life. I've fallen for that trap, I'll even confess. I'm not going to hook out my wife, but somehow under pressure or where's my ballot, I ended up voting for Biden. And so I've always been trapped in this lesser evil thing. But, my Ralph Nader, what a great resource. What a great journalist. What a great figure. And right now, getting back to this whole argument about the Democrats, I believe in independence of thought. And I believe in grassroots action, and I believe and don't trust the side that you're supposed to trust. You know, you can find. I mean, I was disappointed. I ran for Congress once, and Ron Dellums, somebody I encouraged to run in the old Oakland Berkeley district, the seventh it used to be. Barbara Lee is somebody I had admired all my life. What is Barbara Lee doing carrying water for, the Pelosi and these people? This brave woman who lone voice against going into Iraq. Where is the peace movement now?
right.
I mean, it's unbelievable. Let's fire more rockets. Let's kill more people. Well, I've been on both sides of this thing. I've seen what happens. You think you're going to make them kinder? You think you're going to bring unity? It's interesting, by the way, the whole argument about you can't get out of Vietnam. Remember that? Oh, you get out of Vietnam, it'll be awful, because they believed in something. Oh, and then it'll encourage the Chinese, and they're just puppets. We got out of Vietnam. You ask any of these policymakers, what happened? Communist Vietnam and communist China went to war. They didn't invade San Diego.
Right.
And right now, the American government would rather Apple's products were made in Vietnam, still a communist country. They like Vietnam. They don't like Russia, which is an anti-communist country.
Right.
Communist Party, they get jailed, by Putin. They did like China as long as they were providing cheap labor to us. Now they want to make China, the enemy. Why? Why? You got to ask yourself the question. Why? Well, it plays well with some people who think, well, maybe the jobs will come back. That's garbage. That has always fueled jingoism. They're the enemy. And think about the history of this country in relation to China. My goodness, you couldn't get married if you were a Chinese person to a non-Chinese until the Second World War, when they were our ally. There finally was a change in the law. Chinese women couldn't come in when the Chinese were doing the gold mining and building the railroad. The group that after Black people that was most systematically demonized were the Chinese. And then we did everything. You can go to the Opium War. We did everything to humiliate, destroy. Finally, despite all that, China actually develops an economy that can keep us alive during this pandemic, even supply the toilet paper, supply medicine, supply everything. And now, hey, we need an enemy. Russia isn't good enough enemy. It's too small a population, too spread out. And, China, that will be the big enemy. So now you got the return of red baiting and the old Cold War, but with China at the center. And that's not what China's about. What China's about is what India's about, what Brazil's about, what Russia's about, which is other people want to play a role in making history for their own people. They have their own nationalism. I don't like nationalism. I think it ends up being very destructive, but, it's not just an American invention. People in Ireland, religious dispute, national dispute, they were killing each other over, Northern, Ireland, for God's sake, for so long. And that's what we're stoking here now. And I think every liberal, anybody listening to the show, have really got to think about, why is the Democratic Party now clearly the party of warmongers? What is that about? And what do they want to do? They want to demonize? I mean, did China take the jobs from us? Did they negotiate? Yeah, they negotiated some trade deals. Those were our invention, you know, right? And why didn't we negotiate trade unions that protected American workers? You know, and why is it so difficult for people in Starbucks? I mean, all these new economy jobs to negotiate to get a decent wage. Why isn't there passion in the Democratic Party about that?
Because same donors?
Well, it's more than donors. We have a courtier class of well-educated people, subject of my next book. Probably blow it and somebody will write one. But we have a class of well-educated people at the better schools that are, unless they happen to be independently super wealthy from their family and everything else, are expected as lawyers, as everything else, lobbyists, to serve the super rich. We have exactly what de Tocqueville warned against. We don't have that ever expanding, powerful middle class. We have the most extreme gap between wealth and ordinary people. And those ordinary people, we know from all of the statistics, couldn't get by for a month on their savings or what else they got. And they get beaten over the head all the time, no matter their skin color, no matter their gender, no matter their sexual preference. They have this in common. So what do we got to do? We have to convince them, the powerful people have to convince them that they don't have it in common, that their enemy is a woman, their enemy is a Black person, a Latino, whatever. It's the oldest trick. It's what Orwell warned about, but every other wise person has warned about. And that's the game both the Republicans and Democrats are playing. Trump did it in a more blatant, defensive, ill-mannered way. His great crime is a crime of manners compared to the Democrats. The Democrats are more effective at it. What has Nancy Pelosi done about the homeless in San Francisco, for God's sake? What has she done about that? She's gone partying with the richest people. Her husband's one of them. That's how they made their money. It's what Dianne Feinstein did. Do they really care about ordinary people living even in the districts they're supposed to represent? I mean, we finally get the vote from a guy in West Virginia. Why doesn't everybody call him out on the life of ordinary people in West Virginia? Why is he some guy you will back now? And what are the Democrats doing about life in West Virginia or any place else? I mean, it's shocking, and so, yeah, I think it's very difficult for people. And it's one thing everyone says, you have to vote. People died. I'm not going to deny that. But to have all of our attention and action around mobilizing people for every one of these elections, when we have overwhelming evidence that it doesn't matter, that the Democrats are probably more effective at betraying the interests of ordinary people, using the word effective, so soft peddling it, selling it. They make it sound universal. Yeah, there's a reason why a lot of moneyed people in Silicon Valley back them, because it all seems so enlightened, But does anybody ever ask, Tim Cook, and I don't want to demonize him. I think among that crowd, he's probably as good as any of them. But the fact of the matter is, why isn't what we pay the people who make the Apple products a major, if not the major, human rights question? And what right do they have? I don't know. We could ask people in terms of marriage or who you marry, gay rights, right to be in a union, right to do family planning, not the kind of one-child rule, but the right. Why aren't we talking about that in any other society if we want to meddle? Why are we always meddling in ways that help our defense industry and assert American power and American virtue when we have done? I mean, think about, I know you're going to run out of time probably, but think about this question of climate change. I remember when I was in graduate school, we used to use a statistic that the U.S. had 6% of the world's population and consumed, I forget what it was, 60, 70% of its resources. Okay? That was the statistic. Well, now we have closer to 4%, 4.5%. We still consume an outsized amount. We still create an outside Okay? And now we're demanding everybody else step in line like China. And China surprisingly has embraced the, because they can't breathe in Beijing. They know they got to do something. They're actually making great strides with electric cars and so forth, and which is now being broken off. All the climate control things have been broken off. Nobody even talks about that. You demonize people, they're not going to cooperate on international objectives of controlling waste and climate change and so forth, and we have to be on the same side, you know. And again, this doesn't mean to say that Ukrainian people don't have rights to have the government they want, but were the South Vietnamese people that we claim to be saving really better off under Ngo Dinh Diem when Buddhist monks were burning themselves in suicide, or are they better off now? Is our ability to define the enemy always so accurate? How could Biden go to Saudi Arabia after he had said all these things about how horrible, and it was horrible to kill a Washington Post columnist in one of their councils, embassies, and yet you go there begging them to cut the price of oil to get at Putin? Where does Joe Biden get to decide who the good guys and the bad guys are? And why should we trust him any more than we trust Trump? At least Trump was able to sit down and talk to a lot of these people. I know that's heresy to say that.